Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I am Ben. I'm joined here by Dylan and Brian, and we are here to break down episode 2 of Survivor 42. And right off the bat, I just want to say I actually really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a pretty solid episode. It kind of took me by surprise how much I enjoyed it. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
I'll defer to Brian first. Welcome back to the
Yeah, for
pod,
sure.
Brian.
Welcome back,
Yes,
Brian.
thank you. I'm back after my winner pick going out in episode 1. Just went on a week long bender, but we're here. I'm back. I'm ready. I miss Zach almost as much as Marianne missed Zach, to be quite frank. And it's not gonna get easier, but we're gonna get through it. As for the episode, I really did enjoy it too, and I was trying to think, what was it about this episode that maybe made me enjoy it more than most season 41 episodes, and even the premiere, although I did like the premiere. And I think it was the fact that we didn't have a random forced ship wheel island segment. Instead, we just got to chill with the tribes at their beaches. What do you guys think about that as a potential reason?
Agreed. Sorry, I was just correcting my lighting. As discussed, the WGE does not have a great lighting budget for me, apparently. Yeah, I loved it. It was great. Like you said, just it's so nice to have camp life like this. Like we have camp life, which is great. Um, some very interesting moves, like chaotic moves from some people that I think adds another entertaining element. But yeah, I loved it, and I think that it was nice that really it seems like it's a great cast, a great tribes they have in there, and I think even at the end of this episode we kept most of the favorites or all the favorites. I think, which is another big part too. Not to put down anyone that was voted out tonight, but uh, yeah, I loved it. It's just this season's off to a great start, and I'm really happy about it, especially after the turbulent season we had last season. That's the last time I'm going to reference last season because we're on to this season. I did so much last week.
But I mean, it makes sense to reference last season, I think, to a point because a lot of the twists and a lot of the story beats that they're trying to hit are basically pulled directly from last season. So, uh, one of which we see in this episode reintroduced. But yeah, I agree with what Brian said. That like the main two reasons that I really liked this episode was we got like a very broad overview of basically like everybody who's left in the game, and we got like a very like useful check-in with all three tribes to see kind of where the social construct of the tribes are and where everybody strategically kind of placed themselves on top of the camp life stuff. And then also, yeah, as Brian mentioned, the reason we were able to get all of that in the episode was because we didn't have 10 minutes dedicated to Shipwreck Island twist for like no reason. So yeah, definitely thumbs up. More of this, less of the disruptive twists that take away from the core parts of the game. So yeah, I guess we can get into it. Let's start with we really kind of got three check-ins, one with each tribe before the immunity challenge, and then we got the stuff with the losing tribe afterwards. So let's start with it's Ika, right? It's the tribe that lost a member last week in the first tribal council. So primarily the people that we ended up checking out with in that tribe were the three women, because Drea approaches Tori and Swathi on the beach in the water and proposes a woman's alliance because now that there's a 3 to woman to man discrepancy within the tribe with Zach being on. And then immediately after Drea dips out of the conversation, Swathi says to Tori, I don't actually want to do that because Drea tells them about the extra vote that she got, and Swathi thinks that this makes Drea a very easy person to put the target onto. Dylan, what was your thoughts on this whole sequence? In particular, as we see kind of Tori going from somebody who was at the bottom to potentially in a super safe position with this information.
Yeah, it seems like nobody wants to keep their mouth shut this season, which sometimes does make for very, very good Survivor. Maybe it's not necessarily the best gameplay, but it does make for entertaining Survivor to watch. I don't. I guess. I guess Drea. I mean, she's because I thought that she seems like she had a pretty comfortable alliance with Roxroy. So the actual move of going to form an all girl alliance, I guess you have the majority vote. I don't know because we obviously see it again later on the road. People just love spilling that they have an advantage, and I don't understand the need to do it there because I think you can just say, hey, let's just do this 3-year alliance and we're good. And I think you immediately put yourself in a position where you have the majority, even if you don't decide to go with it in the end because you have your advantage. Good on Swathi because I think that I think this is an episode where we see that she's going to be a good player, and I think that she recognizes that if somebody's going to show their hand with their advantage this early on in a season, like maybe we should just get rid of them then, because who knows who else they told, and then who knows how early they're going to use it. So smart play by Swathi, bad play by Drea, and after giving her all the praise last week, but I mean obviously it's a wait and see end game type of thing, but it just I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I actually have. So this is a good question, I think, for you, Ben. I don't know if I've said it on this show, but certainly in conversations, probably in other podcasts I've done for Survivor, and just in conversations over the years that we've had. I always kind of looked at like idols specifically, but advantages more as like the true power of these things is in using them to build relationships for yourself. Is that not the case anymore? Because no one had a good time telling people about their advantages in this episode. And I mean, I'm glad that I didn't go on this season because I would be one of the people being like, yes, I have this advantage and now I'm going to spill the beans and use it to build trust and all of a sudden be on the bottom of a situation. Because, I don't know, something in the meta of Survivor seems to have changed.
Yeah, I think that the important distinction is using the information to reinforce trust rather than to build it, as like a building block on top of a pre-existing kind of foundation of a relationship and of a trust. And we'll obviously talk about Mike, who you guys both were inferring about next. But I think that both Drea's issue and Mike's issue is that they're telling somebody about their advantages who they don't really have that pre-established kind of trust and relationship with. Whereas we saw Drea in the first episode building this like kind of older crew alliance with Romeo and Roxroy, and it doesn't seem like she had much of a foundation at all, at the very least Swathi, even though she had the good conversation with Tori, to be able to like make this kind of a leap. And then as we'll talk about with Mike, it seems like Mike telling Jenny was fine and paid off and reinforced the trust that he had already started to build with Jenny from episode 1. But his issue was telling Daniel, who he didn't seem to have that kind of a foundation with. So I think that's really the key. That's the important distinction, is like there needs to be a level of trust there that you can reinforce, as opposed to like using the information alone as like a vector for demonstrating trust.
I think. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I think that's a great answer, and didn't even have to subscribe to our Patreon to get answers for future survivors like that. So that one's for free. I think that's a really good point. You need to already have that trust. You can't use it to make something out of nothing because, like you said, if people don't trust you, then they're just like, oh, okay, I want to get this guy out of here because I don't necessarily trust him to begin with, and now I know he has an advantage in the game. So yeah, good stuff. Thank you for that.
I think back to Drea though. I think that we're probably seeing a player maybe that isn't going to end up being aligned to anyone in the end, because we saw last week almost immediately after that challenge, Roxroy, appeared to have given up. She threw him underneath the bus. Somebody that I thought was probably her closest ally at the time through that episode, and we clearly see it here. Actually, now that I'm kind of rewinding it in my head, that she's seemingly going to just do it again. And whoever she ends up choosing, obviously, whether it's the all girls or back to the older alliance, I think that she's probably someone that she's going to be our hopscotcher this season, just bouncing around. If she makes it far enough, so yeah, because I was rewinding in my head about her last week too, and I completely forgot that she just threw Roxroy under the bus. So maybe they're not as solid as I thought, but I don't. This is an interesting tribe because I think that there's a lot of good players, and I think that there's good players maybe playing poorly off the bat. Maybe that advantage hurts her more sometimes than it helps her. Guess we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. And hey, shout out to Tori. Real bad position potentially last week, and now she looks like she might be cruising. I mean, it certainly feels to me that she's being portrayed in a way as someone who's going to be around for a while. Stuff seems to be running through her narratively on the Blue Tribe.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of comparisons that people are making to Angelina, which I don't necessarily disagree with. But
I love Angelina, so if she
yeah.
can be half as entertaining as Angelina was on David versus Goliath, that's fine with me.
Mm-hmm.
Season I still have not watched yet.
Oh my god!
So good. I figured you would. Netflix.
I figured you would have because it's on Netflix and because it's like basically like the one good season in the last 5 years.
I'm a Paramount Plus slut, and so I just
it's on there too. I'm pretty sure.
But I slowed to a crawl at the end of 41 with the chaos of like moving the house, and we just finished season where 1-1 we haven't restarted yet. We watched that season for like 2 months. So
there you go. Dave vs. Goliath is next after that, anyways.
It is the next season. Okay, all right. So I am there because I think pretty much after that you guys told me it's stuck up until Winners at War. So okay, now I'm there. All right. So Angelina is someone to watch out for. Got it.
Yeah, Dave vs. Goliath is
stuff for Dave vs. Goliath. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a good season. And speaking of Paramount Plus, put Australian Survivor back on Paramount Plus. What the hell? Like, they gave it to us for like a month and then they took it away. I don't understand.
Yeah.
There's so many episodes each season. How is that supposed to get through a season in that short amount of time?
Put the HD versions of the earlier seasons. I know we had the technology to do that. I've seen JFK get shot in 4K. We can get these early season survivors in HD, please.
It'll really depend on how they shot them. If they shot them on tape, probably can't restore them that way. But if they shot them on film, which maybe, and apparently JFK's assassination was on film, then they can make it look really good. So we'll have to see. Mark Burnett, if you're watching, give us the HD 4K versions of the first, 16 seasons?
16 seasons, yeah.
I never even thought, did they film earlier seasons of TV on tape?
There's a certain point that it's cheaper to film on tape than it was on film. So that's why, like, you can't get, like, good stuff. Like, if you watch, like, old sports, all of those are broadcast on tapes, and they're only, like, degrading as time goes on, and each copy you make digitally degrades it. So, like, eventually stuff from back in the day that wasn't on film is going to just be completely, like, unwatchable.
That's interesting. I don't want to get too much into it, but I've just gotten, like, a 4K Blu-ray, like a buying binge, and just buying up a whole bunch of, like, older movies because the older movies port really well to 4K disc. And so that I guess it makes sense why it's not as readily available with shows.
Yeah, if it's on film, you can pretty much up-res it forever. But yeah,
because I just watched 2001 for the very first time, and it was like watching a new movie.
It looks really good. I know they were so off to target. That's fine. That's what the people want. Like the Star Wars, like the original Star Wars remasters look so good.
That was the example I was going to give. The remastered Star Wars. Yeah. And a lot of, like, like the, I don't want to say snobbier, but like more future-proofing directors are like adamant about the way they film their projects. So that this is possible. All right, we're back on target here. With Tori here. The only other kind of thing that we get that I can remember from that tribe was a confessional that stood out from Romeo, where he talks about how he is okay with Zach going despite them having the skinny guys thing, because it makes Tori feel safe, which I don't agree with at all from a like logical strategic perspective, because Tori feeling safe is just going to bolster her to be able to make moves to improve her position, which is basically what she does. So I don't know what the reasoning, how that reasoning goes. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree.
Yeah, tough for Romeo there. He was like, we were a hashtag. We weren't a hashtag. Survivor doesn't do that anymore. Hashtag Survivor Breakdown. Never forget that being one. But yeah, no, I don't get unless he's like really like into having Tori as an ally from his side. I don't necessarily understand his logic here because it seems Zach was like 100% on the Romeo on the Skinny Guys Alliance, and I feel like that would have been a good ally for him to have.
It also doesn't make sense because she knew that she was on the chopping block of Zach. So it's not like she was like they were gonna blindside her or anything like that. And then it just leads to a further blindside down the road. It's like she knew that she was on the chopping block going into that vote, and she seemingly maybe swayed them a minute to keep her. So yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I think it was just talking out of his ass.
Trying to justify the decision in retrospect to be like, actually, it was very smart that I stabbed my main ally in the back.
It's just something like I would say. Like it's just stupid. It just doesn't make any sense.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't. It seemed very much like Cope. I guess we can move on to the other tribe who is not going to go to tribal council this episode, and Vati, and they're going to remain at 6 players by the end of this episode. But there's going to be a lot of really interesting stuff going on in this tribe. We kind of get a good check-in from pretty much everybody except for Lydia. And we start with kind of a scene of it was Chanel and somebody catching a crab. Was it Daniel? Or was it Lydia? Oh, it was Jenny. It was Jenny and Chanel? Okay.
I thought so.
Okay. I remember Chanel's confessional about it, which is why I remembered her specifically. But they catch a crab, and we get a little scene where Ty talks about the struggle he has coming onto Survivor as a vegan and whether or not he wants to eat meat because they don't really have any other food source. It's not like a normal Survivor season where he can just sustain himself off of rice, like many vegans and vegetarians on Survivor have in the past. They don't really have the rice or beans to like kind of supplement. They're basically just kind of eating what is available to them, which is coconuts and now crab. Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting scene because it's not really a subject that gets touched on really in Survivor in terms of like how somebody who comes on as a vegan or vegetarian.
One time.
Yeah.
In
Well,
season 2.
Yeah.
Hasn't really been one since.
True, but Australian Outback, they did have a lot of rice available to them. It did, eventually get
Also,
washed away.
wasn't Joe on Go Wrong? Didn't he not eat meat until he was there, and that was part of why he like got medevaced from eating too much meat?
I don't know if that's the case.
Joe's the older guy, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if he didn't eat meat, but I think that he like ate way too much at that reward.
He really did.
Like, I think
definitely, yeah.
he had like 3 porters, he had like 2 sausages, like because I remember they like commented, like one of the people playing commented on him and how much he was eating.
I think it was Sydney. Was like, yeah, I don't know. Joe is really chowing down here.
Yeah.
Poor Joe.
It is an interesting aspect because, like you said, this is the first season where they've really had this, where they've had a very, very limited supply. So it probably wasn't even something that crossed his mind because he figured that we'll at least get rice. So if we do get a reward, we'll just eat rice. Doesn't help they got like a fishing kit after that too. So tough. Yeah, it's. I would assume they're gonna have to adapt to it at being the producers at some point, and that they're gonna end up throwing out rice and beans maybe instead of something else because they don't realize that they have someone that may just starve to death. Maybe.
I think like I don't know about this season. I think maybe last season wasn't there like as a merge, like the people who didn't win that challenge got like rice, and I don't know if that kept going throughout the rest of the merge, but I think until we get back to 39 days, this will be just like how they do it, where it's just like, well, they probably won't die in 26 days with no food, so it's fine. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian, but like, I'm not gonna hold it against him for eating some crab when he literally has no other food. You know what I mean?
I do want to say though, this tribe stacked with I think all very good players. Lydia is probably my favorite person on this season. I wish she got a little more screen time here, but when she is on the camera, she shines. So love her. I think that this is a tribe of 6 players. I think this is a very good tribe. I mean, they don't have the physical. They do have Mike, who's one of the more physical people of the season, though. So shout out this tribe because it's green. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I just realized I'm wearing green with the green screen behind me, so things aren't going to go well when Brian tries to do projection here. But happy St. Patrick's Day. But yes, shout out Vati. I think that's a very good tribe, and I don't know. I have maybe like 2 winners. I have 2 winning choices on that tribe right now. Not so far.
I'm curious to hear who they are because the person that I think is the most likely winner is also in this tribe at this point. If I had to pick,
I really like Jenny a lot, and I really like. I guess maybe 3. Because I love high. I'm staying on my high train from last season also, but my other winning pick is Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel would be the person. If you put a gun to my head right now, based off these first 2 episodes, so I think the winner it would be Daniel.
He's getting the arc of like an insane childhood that is wrapped up in becoming Survivor. He dislocates his shoulder 10 minutes into his Survivor journey. It just seems like it's like getting there. But I think because I think the editing, there's just editing wise, I don't think there's a clear winner yet. Because I think it's been so balanced, which is great. But I can see, in 4 or 5 weeks, all 6 of these players still being there, if they immunity challenge. So I think that this is a tribe that, even if it's not Daniel or Jenny, I think this tribe goes very, very far.
Yeah, pretty similar to last season where we had a tribe of 6 all make it to the merge, and like most of them make it pretty far into the season, and the winner was from that tribe as well. As well as like 4 to the final 5 or something like that. Yeah.
We talked about it last season. In this format of 3 tribes, it's so like easy for if you like get a win or 2 right off the bat to just kind of steamroll through because you have like the momentum, you have your whole tribe, everything's easier. Camp works easier, challenges are easier, people are sitting out challenges so that they're fresh for other challenges. It's a good spot to be in.
Yeah. I guess we can also then go on to the second half of this tribe's storyline, which is primarily focused around Mike here, who is the first player this season to find the beloved Beware advantage that makes you say a dumb phrase at the immunity challenges that we saw from last season.
Yeah. Hey, Daniel said it was smart, so who am I to disagree with Daniel?
It's a good twist because it creates a situation where Daniel has information and none of the downside and is able to control this, and it creates an opportunity for him to basically take social control and strategic control of the tribe. Or is it a good twist because he thinks it's a good twist? Who knows?
Who knows? I will say, like, I'm very impressed with this cast. I know they're not quite as physically like gifted across the board as last season, but they seem to have a good sense for the game, and it makes it feel like more of a sequel season because now, if this twist came up again after having watched it, I'm sure like a lot of people would have like thought it through and been like, if no one activates the idol, then there's no idols in the game. Yep. But he thought about that immediately on the island, having never encountered this twist before. And I gotta give Daniel a lot of credit for this idea.
Yep.
the overall point too, like you said, Ryan, of maybe not a great physical cast, but I think this is a great strategy cast. I think that the social a lot of players is pretty unsuspected, just based on some of like the preseason, like Jonathan, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's playing a great social game, which is like shocking to me. Really like upset. That's what like I just think there's so many great players. Maybe not gonna say great. There's so many good players so far that I can really genuinely see almost everybody left potentially winning, which is goes into a good season, because last year I think that we talked about it, we narrowed down who was going to win within the first 2 weeks. We narrowed down like the top three of who was going to win.
I'm not sure we said Erica.
I was about to say maybe we didn't pick the actual winner, but we at least got like the people that were going to be there in the end. And this season, I think I think the fact that Jonathan is a great social player and actually look like just a meathead like in the early preseason stuff, like yeah, it's just Daniel. Like I just thought Daniel just seemed the lovable guy that was maybe voted out in the first 3-4 tribals, but especially after he dislocated his shoulder 10 minutes into the first episode. But yeah, it's just there's just some great players here, and I agree. I think that Daniel, that's just a really interesting strategy. And also, so I was just gonna say, kind of what you said though. I can't imagine them keeping the same twist after the season, because it's just gonna become everybody. Like maybe they'll have to switch it up somehow. So it is nice to see it being used in just a non-ridiculous way, like it was last year, where you basically just waited for somebody to say something with no kind of background, the strategy after that.
Yeah, and I mean, also kind of crazy, like Daniel and Chanel at first were like, well, we're just kind of alliance of circumstance, but now they're like in a prime position to like run the tribe and potentially run the game as it goes on. So that's, hey, sometimes you find like the best allies when you're least expecting to.
Yeah, it's like one of the like archetypes of Survivor, like the the unlikely duo or unlikely marriage or whatever. And yeah, I think that when you're on a tribe of 6 and one pair of 2 clearly hooks up and the other pair of 2 clearly hooks up, like you're kind of just like, okay, well, I know what I have to do. I need a pair as well. It just makes sense. And so yeah, it is interesting to me that Mike finds this idol, promptly loses it, refines it again, and by the end of the episode, 4 6 people on his tribe know that he has it and how it works. And that's, I think with a normal idol, that's fine, because worst comes to worst, you can just figure out that you're being targeted and play it and save yourself. But with the Beware advantage, it doesn't really work that way. Not only does he not have an idol in reality, he doesn't have a vote, and so he is basically giving ammunition away to people who have very little reason to keep him around or to like use him as anything more than like a strategic pawn in their plans. So,
although we saw it with Xander last year, though, Xander was in a position where he was basically forced to have to tell people that he had it, because he was going to be singled out if he didn't. And I mean, unfortunately, he carried the idol too far. Other than that very slick move, it got to the point where everybody just knew he had an idol and just nobody cared. So there were kind of like two different. But I don't get it. Maybe he didn't fully understand how it worked. Like I don't know. I wouldn't have told anyone at that point. There's no reason to. There wasn't a reason to. If you want to, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? On a tribe of 6, not having a vote doesn't matter, because it doesn't change where the majority breaks, right? Because in order to have a majority on 6, you need 4. But if you have 4 and you lose a vote, you still have 3 versus 2. So it literally doesn't change anything. So you should just make a 4-person alliance. You already have a pair. You know that there's 2 other pairs, basically. Like nobody's trying to hide it. So just if you want to work with Chanel and Daniel over Lydia and Hai, then just like make it clear to them that you want to work with them as a foursome. There's no need to tell them that you lost your vote, and you just vote together and you have a majority regardless, and you just vote out Lydia and Hai if it comes down to it. And yeah, if he wants to tell Jenny and build that trust, and he really trusts that Jenny is not gonna, snake him because it doesn't really make sense for her to. That's fine, but yeah, telling Daniel was like very, very questionable.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Also, very funny that he lost the idol. I always thought about that when people like
Yep.
are burying idols. Like I always was nervous, like what if they lose it? What if
I'd
they
lo-
forget?
I'd
Yeah.
lose
And also him being like, I know I buried it near a Y, and Daniel being like, there are a lot of Ys on these paths, Mike. But no, he found it, so we're all good there.
Yeah. Definitely, if we're doing edit reading, the show is not doing Mike a lot of favors here in terms of making him look like a strategic genius. So,
I still think he's in a good position though, which is interesting because I hate it's like the opposite. It's like because it's essentially in the end the same thing that Drea, just for different reasons. But I don't think he's in as shitty a position as she is. 'Cause I think that she's now just picking sides. But yeah, it wasn't bright.
yeah, I mean, I think he's in a good position insofar as like right now, Daniel and Chanel seem to view him as like a controllable element. In that, like Daniel tells him not to say the phrase of the challenge, and he doesn't say the phrase of the challenge. So I think as long as they feel like they have him under control and that he'll do what they tell him to do, they'll keep him around because that gives them the information of where the idol is. But like the second that he becomes even like a modicum dangerous to them, I think that he's probably gone.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm glad that Chanel looks to be in a very good spot, given that she's my winner pick.
Right.
And I was glad to see more of her in this episode, more of the personal stuff with killing the crab. Yeah. Move on to Haku, is the third tribe.
Yeah.
Taku. And this is the tribe that's eventually going to be going to tribal council here. But we start out with a number of kind of personal stories, primarily Mariah and Omar's, where Omar talks about his experience as a Muslim person and his like relationship with Islam, and how that's going to kind of manifest itself on the island to like give his tribe a heads up that he's going to be praying and not going off on his own to look for idols, which I thought was funny.
Definitely.
And yeah, what do you guys think about this? I think there's Survivor. As much as Survivor is touting diversity initiatives and everything like that, I think Omar is the second or third Muslim contestant in the 42 seasons of Survivor.
Yeah, I was about to say Survivor's come a long way in
Yeah.
how sensitive, because like they did not necessarily frame Ibrahim and Palau's faith necessarily as well as they did in this episode.
Mhm.
I believe we even had a confession of one of the people saying that my God says that Ibrahim's going to get voted out tonight, which is not a particularly nice thing to say. It's kind of a funny line, but not sensitive in the way that this was. And maybe that's just how we've come as a culture, because we had a great scene where Jonathan was like, "Hey, like that's awesome. I want to learn about that. And if you want to learn about my religion, like please like ask. Like I'd love to share that with you." And then Lindsay had a great line about being like, I'm not a great Jewish person in terms of like being practicing, but if you have questions, I'm ready to talk about it too." And I thought this was a really great character scene, and kind of shows how far we've come as being more sensitive of people's beliefs and religions and whatnot since the beginning of Survivor.
Agreed. It was a very, very wholesome scene. It was something I never even thought about too, of the people of religion, like what they do for praying on the island, all that, as someone that's not religious really at all.
Mm.
So yeah, it was cool to see his tribe kind of unite around him, and like I said, Jonathan's really surprised me, and this big hulking guy from Alabama. Like it's just it's he's very surprising. You don't judge a book by cover,
No.
but it's very nice. Yeah, it was, and like you said, Lindsay, that was very funny. Making the palm for him, it was just very wholesome. It was very nice. It was cool to see, and maybe like I said, I think this could be a season of Survivor, maybe correcting some wrongs that they've done specifically last year, but maybe in other seasons. And some people are going to say it's being too woke, but I think it's correcting some years of neglect. So it was nice to see, and I'm glad that his tribe reacted positively. I am curious to see he'll be off running to the jungle though, taking that to his advantage because once again it is Survivor, something I would do. But yeah, very wholesome. It was very cool to see. It's a season of really really likable people. Everyone's just so likable and everyone's just so wholesome. And I don't even know you can just credit editing for that. It's just a great cast.
Yeah, and like you said, I really did enjoy Marianne immediately being like, "Oh, let me like get you like a prayer mat. I'll weave one like for you right now." And she seemed to do it immediately, and I really like her. She seems to really be enjoying the Survivor experience, which is great. As a super fan myself, like I hope that I would be able to in the moment enjoy it and not be like a complete game bot. Although I don't know if I would be able to.
Yeah, I mean, Marianne's on me. She's definitely somebody who probably in real life, I don't know if I would be able to be around that level of energy 24/7, or like live with her on a beach when I'm starving and dehydrated and tired. But for like 45 minutes a week on my television screen, she's very fun. And, the stuff that she has, the moments she has at the immunity challenge that we'll talk about next,
God, yeah,
very fun.
yeah.
So
I was just gonna say that was something that was also brought up. I think before Omar's scene two is that I think Lindsay was basically saying, I think it was either Lindsay or Mariah that her eccentricness, there is a certain point where it becomes too much.
mhm.
So it is something to watch in terms of like the game itself.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not a huge high energy person, but I can
No,
imagine it
me
does get
either.
exhausting from time to time. But I do agree. And I love her personality in the game. It's nice to have a fun, wacky one and not just like a crazy wacky one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't have her going very far, but I do like her, and she could surprise me. Like I said, none of these players I'm going to judge by the cover after what we've seen so far. So who knows? Maybe she just turned into an absolute social and strategic powerhouse after this.
That's actually surprising that you say that. I disagree. I think that Marianne's being set up to be one of the stars in long term for sure, and that's why I was like 99% sure after the immunity challenge, like, oh yeah, so Mariah's just going, right? Like I just knew that Mariah was going. So like they're not putting investing this much into Marianne for her to go in episode two. So I disagree. I think Marianne's probably going to be one of the main stars this season.
Maybe it's a controversy in the pod. Me and Ben at it again.
She kind of reminds me of Wendy a little bit on Edge of Extinction, but without the caveat of Wendy not wanting to actually play Survivor.
Yeah.
Marianne does not seem to have any qualms about voting people off, whereas Wendy had a lot of issues with voting people off, even when it could potentially save her. She didn't want to go with plans to do stuff, so could be fun. But yeah, no, I totally agree. I don't know how I would react in person in Survivor to someone with that much energy as someone who's not like that in real life at all, let alone how I'd be on an island starving. I'd probably have some bitchy confessionals that I would later regret saying. I'll leave it at that. But for Mariah, we got her backstory, and Jesus fucking Christ, it's dark and timely, and Jesus, that was sad.
Yeah, this is something that she mentioned in her bio. So you were, if you like read through all the bios in the preseason, it featured heavily on that. Yeah, she lost her brother at the start of COVID, and the face of the kind of lack of care that America unfortunately had about protecting frontline workers during the start of the pandemic. And he was the first frontline worker,
Haven't really
first
gotten much better.
yeah,
Yeah, but,
he's the first healthcare worker to pass away from COVID right near the start of when it was breaking out in the first wave in New York. So very sad, and I hope that she was able to bury that necklace before she was voted out, because that seemed like it was something that was important to her.
I think I read a story, actually a couple hours ago that she said she did not.
Oof. Well,
brutal.
It was just like it was something I quickly scrolled by on Twitter, so I don't know like how it is. Is she did not.
I mean, not to jump ahead, but given that she played her shot in the dark, that's surprising to me because it seemed like she knew that she was the target and wasn't really blindsided. So maybe she just didn't have the time to do it, despite the fact that she was getting voted out. So yeah, if that's the case, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's just really sad, and it just like reminds us, even though like things are at this moment in time, I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but like at this moment in time, things seem to be getting a little better. That this was filmed during COVID and during a time where stuff wasn't as good, and especially her brother like died right when it came became a thing. So just yeah, it will be an interesting thing in 10 years of people who like go back and watch it when we're on Survivor 60. We're all old with gray beards or whatever, still doing this podcast, but it'll be an interesting like history marker.
like a time capsule. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Time capsule, way better word than history marker. Jesus Christ.
I mean, a history marker gets the point across, even if it's kind of a made-up phrase.
Right.
The source was Entertainment Weekly, so unfortunately she confirmed did not bury that necklace.
Sad.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah, I don't know. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, from that sad stuff to Survivor just hurting their contestants. I don't know why we do blindfolded challenges. It feels like one of the first times they did one, they brained one of their contestants. And then they were like, yes, this is the best. We need to continue to do this. Grave bodily injury is the name of the game.
Yeah, I think this is the first time they've also had an explicit captioned reference to somebody getting smacked in the balls during one of these blindfold challenges. When usually it's just kind of like like it's happening and you're seeing it, but they don't really focus on it, right? Here during the challenge, we have Daniel explicitly saying, "Rockray, you gotta protect the balls," which is a potential winner quote right there.
Yes. I mean, they obviously intentionally like line stuff up to where it's like perfect height to smack people in the balls. They love it. They love this stuff. Jeff Probst has some demons that he's working out slowly every time they do one of these.
Yeah, I mean, if I was ever on Survivor, I don't care if I screw up the challenge. I'm being the caller. Like I'm 100% volunteering to be the caller. I'll scream my voice out to the level of not being able to talk for the rest of the day. I'll take responsibility if the tribe loses. I'm not gonna blindfold on and running ball first into a pole over and over again. That's not my MO.
Oh man, and that were I just like I said in reference at the top, I always just picture Big Tom getting just annihilated by the puzzle piece, and like, no thanks. I do not want that to happen to me.
Yeah. Oh man, and this was like, this felt like such a complex challenge for no reason as well. There were so many moving parts to it that I was completely lost at what the fuck was going on, frankly.
Yep.
Other than like constant shots of people like hurting themselves, and like I could kind of figure out who was ahead, but it wasn't very clear what was going on from at least my perspective. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
I couldn't even fully figure out what they were supposed to do until everything came together anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's like they added like bits and pieces from each iteration of this challenge. Like, they've had things where they've had to like unscrew stuff to like let water go into a bucket. So they're like, oh, we need to do the unscrew thing. Like, oh, wouldn't it be fun if we had them dig through hay and go into a little area? That'd be cool. And then we have like the blindfolded puzzle at the end, like Samoa Heroes versus Villains, like that type of a thing. I'm sure they've done it a bunch of other times as well. I'm just not recalling, but yeah, Lydia killed it.
Crushed it. She was the star of that challenge, in my opinion.
Yeah, she had another fun line in there as well, where she's like,
Yes.
like, come towards me, bitches, or whatever she said.
Yeah, something like you bitches come back to me, something like that. Yeah, she's like I said, it's just like someone that you like that's funny in real life, just on the show. I'm like find myself legitimately laughing every time she's on screen. Also, she's just riot on Twitter too.
Yeah, she's self-proclaimed fattest, juiciest ass in the history of Survivor. So that's fun. Love that.
Yeah. In comparison to Marianne, who is not somebody that I would find myself, hanging out with probably in real life, just from an energy perspective. Lydia for sure is somebody that I would probably hang out with in real life. So definitely a big fan. I hope that she's on the show more because she's probably the quietest of the people still in the game at this point.
And then she tweeted yesterday as the episode was airing, the bitches list, and then it's just a picture of Elizabeth Olsen pregnant in the WandaVision show holding a gun pointing it at the screen. So it's just she's
like the epitome of like online Gen Z, like
very much so. Yes.
Yep.
Which I love. This is the best. Even as an old millennial, I appreciate it.
Yeah. 100%. I guess we buried the lead a little bit here by jumping right into the challenge of we had to say goodbye to your winner pick last week, Brian. I don't know if you had a crush on Zach, which is why you picked him.
I mean, much like Ariane, every white guy I've tried to date, like Zach, has turned me down. So I felt her in that moment. Shades, of course. I mean, everyone has said it, including Zach. But shades of Cook Islands here.
Also, episode 2.
Also, episode 2. Amazing moment, but Zach from
You could try.
You could try. Yeah. That was really fun, and just so funny. And it was the one thing that I was like, well, if Marianne does get voted off, at least she'll get to hang out with Zach.
I just wanted another approach, like doing the double take, like with the wide eyes that he did in Cook Island. Like, wait, what? Excuse me?
I don't know. I think Zach could be in, like, okay, in Cook Islands, that was not ever going to happen. I mean, we all love Billy.
It's a much more realistic couple, all right?
Like, I think if Zach had known, he flattered at the very least, But, yeah, I don't know. That was just so funny. It was so funny that she was so, like, willing to say that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. And I'm rooting for him. You know, I know we're not gonna get a reunion show where it's gonna be the same as last season, but damn, I wish we were so Jeff could ask if they had gotten any dates in between.
Yeah. Um, I mean, we'll see. They did bring back the pre-jurors, right? Or did they not? They didn't bring the. They didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So never mind. I still think to this day I haven't finished watching that like pseudo reunion part from last
I
season.
mean, it's like it's not the same.
Yeah.
Like everything's so fresh. That it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's not
Well,
as
it's a party.
interesting. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, we got a little bit of a photo finish here at the end of this challenge, and Ika pulls it out last second. Jonathan really clutches it up for them, or not Jonathan.
No, not Jonathan. He did not clutch it up.
No, Jonathan fails.
It,
That
he
hurts
can
even
only
more
do
now that
so
I
much.
misspoke. Yeah,
Yeah.
that hurts even more that I misspoke.
Oh man, he's great at everything, including being the caller. But just the puzzles. And he said, he's not that good at puzzles. I mean, he said 11 triangles or whatever in the last episode when it was 51. So this is a tough spot for him to be in.
Yeah, it was Drea. Drea clutched it up for the Ika tribe, of course, or sending the Vatu tribe to their first tribal council, although they're losing their second member, unfortunately here. And yeah, I guess we can briefly, because we didn't really go over. We went over the personal stuff. But we didn't go over the tribe kind of layout socially that we got on this tribe. Where we have the Jonathan and Omar kind of wacky couple that nobody would have seen coming.
Yeah,
Like
Steven
shades of
JT.
Yeah, exactly.
Hard out.
Yeah, shades of Steven and JT.
I mean, it really is modern day Stephen and JT. Like, I don't know. Just to me, I was like, wow, this could. There's been a lot of, fake pretenders to the throne of the ultimate power bromance in Survivor history, but he could give a real run for the money.
Yeah, even more extreme too in both directions.
Both directions.
Yeah.
Oh man, Dylan, what do you think?
Because Jonathan also pretty much said that Marianne was also his girl too. Like it seemed like that Jonathan, in my opinion, just had no point to consider voting on Marianne. So he is forming himself quite a bit a group there. It seems like he's tight with Lindsay too. Clearly in the end. But it's interesting because I don't think that there's like a leader here. It seems like that this is just like this collective of people that are on the same what's the word I'm looking for? The same, not necessarily, but yes, I think that knowing that edit-wise Mariah maybe wasn't going to go far, she was just the logical choice here anyway. It was nice to see kind of just the group just discern that and just throw it out there. Because like I said, we had that earlier of Lindsay saying that maybe Marianne was a little too much to keep around, but in the end, yeah, it just didn't it didn't seem like that there's really any other option here.
Yeah, I think for Jonathan especially, this was like a great vote because I think if you ask those three players who their number one is, all three of them would say Jonathan. Right, and I don't know if Mariah would have. I think she probably would have said Lindsay. So for him, now it's completely locked down. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no, I'm very impressed by Jonathan so far. Definitely, Brian, I recommended both Jackie and Jonathan to you as people that I thought you might pick.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I love endurance. As a kid, I made the replica pieces. Maybe next, if Jonathan wins, I'll bust them out. Let's say that on camera. But him being on endurance, very cool. Him being on Survivor, I always wondered what it would be like if someone, had come from that. And honestly, he kind of has a little bit of a leg up because he has played a social strategy game for real, and did well. He came in third. The red team that season came in third place. Also, it's totally random, but I just found out my next door neighbor, like from growing up, who obviously I knew for years, her cousin won in a season of endurance. It's like, how does this never come up? Like, I never mentioned this, but yeah, not Jonathan's season. But yeah, no, I think obviously I went with my heart, the fellow nerd. I feel like I have more in common with someone like Zach, especially he does sketch comedy. So that was the real determining factor there. But very impressed with Jonathan.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely way more than like the standard, muscle bro who's just kind of beefing through the challenges that you kind of normally get with this archetype. Or he definitely is socially and strategically competent. Socially, very much so. And strategically, I think he has enough going for him so far.
Well, that's what I said last week, is that I thought he would be the easiest merge target of all time, and then now I really don't think that.
No, I agree, Dylan. I thought if there was like designed in a lab a merge boot, it was Jonathan, but now not at all. I think he could get screwed by a swap or like bad numbers at the merge, but if he has time to work his way in with people, he's already shown that he's very good at that.
100%. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that's basically it. I mean, we get the scene of another good moment from Jonathan in terms of like the editing perspective of him going to confessional, like, we're going to have to lie to both of these women and tell them that they're not going home because, or not lie to both of them, but lie to one of them and right to their face, because we have to account for the shot in the dark, and then cut immediately to him doing that. Just like really driving home his position in the tribe. But yeah, I mean, there's not really a lot to talk about here because, in my opinion, the rest of the episode is pretty straightforward.
Yep. Yeah. It's really nice to see the shot in the dark played properly again.
Agreed.
I really thought we were going to get a successful shot in the dark for the very first time. I guess though I feel like at this rate we have to get at least one more this season, right?
I think this cast has already like shown that they're way more willing to just like go for it, and maybe they're just not as good at blindsiding each other as the season before. But I mean, at the end of the day, like the 1 in 6 shot it's so unlikely like to happen. So like even when she played it again, I was like, okay, well, it's not gonna be there. But I am hopeful that I'll be pleasantly surprised someday that it comes up. And to me, I think this is a good twist because like it's not gonna be used if it's like a situation where someone's gonna swing, because you need all the votes to make that happen. But it does add just that extra level of like, well, maybe you're on the bottom and everything seems lost, but maybe there's a chance that you can stay.
I think the only thing I want to see other than a successful roll of the dice would be a complete blunder, which we didn't really get last year either. I guess Sydney's vote would have helped her, but I want a complete blunder where they play it when they didn't have to, and like their vote is the deciding vote. Like I do want to see that as well, just because it's another high risk of you just getting in your own head and rolling that, and there's no fucking reason to do that.
That'd be really bad, because in that instance, like it would have to be like, okay, we're trying to get someone to swing, and oh man, I don't think they're gonna swing, and then they do swing over, but you didn't go for it, and like, yeah.
That's just like, would I rather be unanimously voted out, or would I rather like look like a fucking idiot and play the roll of the die when I really didn't need to, and like lose my vote, and that being the reason why I'm or me or somebody else is going home?
I think, well, yeah, I mean, it'd be tough if you're going home, but I think if you play it and you don't need to, that's fine. Like I've always been like the type of person who's like, who cares about a souvenir on Survivor with idols? Like if you even like think there's like a good chance that you're going home, just play it. Like and same thing for Shot in the Dark. If like you really are like, oh man, I'm in a bad position, like just play the Shot in the Dark and like give yourself, because you'll never like be mad at yourself for playing a Shot in the Dark, not getting it and going home, but like you'll always have the like, oh, if I just played it, maybe like I could have been safe.
No, I think it's more terrifying to fuck it up, but we can move on.
All right, I mean,
As someone that is horrified of failure, yeah, that would be like my biggest. Like, I just go into hiding forever after that.
I've always said that like if I went on Survivor and didn't play an idol and got voted off, I'd like come home and like pack all my Survivor buffs and everything away and just like never talk about Survivor again. I'd just be too like embarrassed that happened to me.
Because at least with an immunity idol, you're holding on to it because you think that you're going to make it further in the game. Where if you panic, roll the dice, you look like a fool. And also, if you do it and you don't go home, then your tribe is like, the people that were with the loyalty were like, what the fuck, like what's going on there? So I mean, there are facets to it that, and I think that we collectively agree that this was one of our favorite twists of last season. I think that. I don't know. I think that I speak for you too. Hopefully, I'm not speaking out of turn, but
I mean, it only benefits the people in the minority. So, like, those are like the baseline. Like, when you're making a twist, how do you make the game better? Oh, you do a twist that goes better for like the people not in power of the game, rather than like something that could get to the people in power and then just like stack their power.
It also seems like something that's just going to be around going forward too, but I like it for all the reasons we just named.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I think that from last season, like to me, it's like the medallion power, right? Where it's like, is it a good twist? Yeah. Is it a bad twist? No, it's not a bad twist. It's doing its job, and it's not making me upset, which is more than I can say about most of the twists from last season. So. Yeah.
The Medallion of Power, I think, works better on a season that wasn't old people versus younger people.
I disagree. I think they put it on that season specifically for the intent of making sure that the young people didn't steamroll the older people in challenges.
Well, that was the problem, because the one time the young people used it, they steamrolled so hard.
Well, I mean, that's because we don't have to get into the misplaying and of the Medallion of Power in Nicaragua, but it was misplayed for sure.
Another podcast, off-season podcast, we just go and talk about all the times Twist didn't work or got misplayed.
Yeah, but yeah, for the Shot in the Dark, I'm happy that people are playing them at least, because it was basically a non-entity last season, and here we have 2 for 2. The 2 people who got voted out each tried to play the Shot in the Dark at least, and are like the first and second people to get voted out without being able to cast a vote and having it be unanimous against them, which is like interesting stats, as Zach mentioned in his final words. We're kind of getting this now.
Gotta assume there's some sort of nudge from production, like, hey, don't forget about the roll of the dice. You think you're gonna go home, maybe roll it. Because 2 times in a row in the first 2 episodes after only getting it once last year,
right?
Tough.
I think that, and when I was watching it, and when I was like sure that I was Mariah, was when Jeff asked, and maybe he asked everyone this, but I don't know. But he like very much like when Jeff is asking you like, so Dylan, say it is you tonight. Can you sum up your journey for us?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay, great.
Yep. I think people mentioned this. I think it was brought up last season. Some like past players referenced that they could potentially read whether they're the target or not based off of the type of question that Jeff asked them. And the journey question, or like the what's your story are going to be, is like one of the biggest tells.
It's the Survivor equivalent of the Avengers showing up to your hospital room. Like, it's not good news at that point.
Yep.
Oh, man.
I guess anything else we want to talk about? It was a good episode. I thought, the boot for me was pretty straightforward and telegraphed, but I think that Survivor recently has gotten into their head that every elimination has to be like a blindside to the audience,
Really
where
have.
I would personally prefer to narratively understand what's going on than to be like shocked as to what happened and have to like rack my brain for an hour as to what I just witnessed. I think there are instances where that makes sense if there's like a big play that happens that you didn't think was going to work, or like some kind of idle play or advantage play that works out, and like it's still narratively clear even though the outcome is surprising. But so far 2 for 2. I knew that I was like 99% sure that Zach was going in episode one. I was 99% sure Mariah was going in episode two. And I'm not unhappy, right? I think both the episodes were good, despite that. So I think that hopefully that's a sign to the producers they don't have to keep doing these audience blindside garbage.
And is that more of like a new thing? Because I feel like when I've seen the earlier seasons, even most of the seasons it was very not very clear, but majority of the tribals were you knew the target was. It was more so how was the target going to talk their way out of this in tribal
Yeah.
was the thing. I agree now. Now the editing, it's kind of like they're trying to blindside you. They're trying to throw in a twist in there of like, oh, maybe it really will be Marianne. Wow. Um, yeah, that's a good point. Because I think I think 18 is the earliest seasons I've watched all the way through. And yeah, one of those tribals, it was like you knew who was on the chopping block going in. You knew they basically had that was the most interesting part was how they were going to talk their way out of this. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But yeah, that's something that I didn't even really think about until you just pointed it out. That yeah, they're like building this suspense and twist there when like there should not be any.
Well, I mean, in the obviously they want it that way because the shot in the dark like literally like makes the players do this. But yeah, Survivor used to be like, here is the story of this person and why they got voted off in this episode. Whereas now it's trying. And I mean, I've complained a lot about this, and I've gotten into fights on people with people on Twitter about this. Like, this is not good storytelling. This is a big reason why the show is not as compelling as it used to be, because we aren't getting the full story, and like it doesn't make up for, the dramatics of it. Not every single vote has to be, the crazy, like Dylan, you've seen Game Changers, right?
Yep.
Yeah, not every vote has to be Malcolm getting voted off in that weird twist. But Survivor thinks that every vote does have to be that for whatever reason.
Yeah. I compared it in the past to like it's kind of Michael Bay-esque, right? Where it's like, flashy moments over like long-term narrative storytelling. And the one thing that Survivor is able to do well that like very few reality shows have historically done well is long-term narrative storytelling in like a very compelling way that like can stand up to written dramas in a lot of ways, and trying to make these moments out of nothing kind of cheapens that in a lot of ways. So I'm glad so far 2 for 2. I hope they continue this trend during the season. 2 for 2, straightforward votes. Not trying to make a blindside out of when a blindside doesn't exist.
Yep.
Like the contestants weren't blindsided. Both the contestants knew they were going. They both used their shot in the dark. There's no reason to try to blindside us.
Right. And it's always disappointing too when it's like, oh, what's gonna happen, and then it is a unanimous vote, and you're like, okay, so this is not lining up with the reality of the situation.
It was like blue balling us,
Yeah.
for like a craziness that isn't going to play off. So yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say. I don't know if you guys have anything else to say about the episode.
No, good stuff. Sorry.
Yeah. No, even going off a little bit of like a critical talk there at the end. Like I still think that this cast is lights out, and I'm now 2 episodes in. Now I'm like just fully buying in. I think we have a good season in our hands. We know we have a good cast. It's just curious to see of where the dominoes are going to fall in terms of who's going to have the massive fuck up first. And I think we're seeing the pieces laid out and who's going to have the most massive fuck up first with Trey and Mike, obviously. Not talking with you guys, more so Mike maybe. because he's kind of just being tacked on. Like I guess Dre getting bumped out because people know it. Like I don't think it's as bad as getting played the whole time, then getting blindsided. You know what I mean? So no, I love it. I'm all in. I'm really excited we're having a good season. Especially it's such a relief because we came in. At least I did. I came in with such a fear that this was going to be a mirror image of last season because it was like literally all I talked about going into it. It's like, let's not forget they shot this back to back, and we're gonna have all the same stuff in it. I think we're clearly seeing what the power of a good cast does, maybe what the power of editing and focusing on proper things were. And so that's really nice. It shows that also Survivor can just like adapt too. Like I saw that they were because they got renewed for 2 more seasons. They were the number 1 reality show on Paramount Plus, and then there's like some other massive number for them. It's like the show still has the audience there, so it's nice to see that the show itself is kind of adapting to keep us around. So very good. But the cast deserves most of the credit, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, and I mean credit where it's due, and like I guess a little bit like to explain part of the reason why this season is, at least in the early goings, better than last season is because it being a kind of sequel season means that we don't need to get everything explained to us as much as we needed to last season. And now we're just like, okay, yeah, we know what this is. We know what the Shot in the Dark is. We know what Shipwheel Island is. Like, whatever. Yeah, we're used to it now. So the show didn't have to take the detours that it took, which really, like, bummed us out last season. Because the casting department, 2 seasons in a row, amazing job. And that more than anything is what's going to keep this show going, is just getting compelling people on it.
Agreed. Agreed all across the board. I hope I'm just very I've been beaten down enough where I hate to get so excited and pumped up for a season, because in the past I've done that and then I get smacked down. Like I was very excited. I was like a big fan of Ghost Island for like the first 4 or 5 episodes, and that season kind of became a huge slog for like the whole back half.
Pre-merge,
so
real good.
Yeah, pre-merge Ghost Island. The first, like I said, 4 to 5 episodes of Ghost Island were like some of the best Survivor in my opinion. But
the Dom, I'm sorry, what was the other guy's name?
Dom and Wendell.
No, not Wendell. Who was the guy that was immediately going against Dom? Because Dom said that he thought he made the wrong decision by
Chris.
Chris. That was so compelling too. Mm-hmm. That whole aspect of that season. Sorry,
he was a superstar. Let's like not beat around the bush. That man was amazing.
Yeah.
Also, did he get unanimously voted off?
He
had no vote on his one boot.
No, I thought Angela voted with him, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, superstar, lasted all the way to the merge, never voted in his entire experience on it, and just had insane beef from the jump.
Could not get over Dom calling him out. That very first, like, it's just like a pre-challenge is really what it was.
Yeah. We need him back. And also he made a very cringy music video at Ponderosa that is no longer on the internet, which is very disappointing. They've scrubbed it, but it was awful.
Well, see, I just watched a Peridium video a day or 2 ago that referenced it, though. So he had
maybe he has it. He has the rip.
Yeah.
We need him. We need to up. And also, shout out to him. Apologies. I was just on Mike White Was Robbed and completely butchered his name. I called his channel, what did I call it? A per diem? Because, a per diem, and then...
per diem is a thing. It is a term.
That's the all right. In fairness, his channel is gibberish. It's not a real word, and I said a real word. Granted, I've watched all of his videos, I think. So you think it would have stuck in my brain. But also, in fairness, pretty dumb, and have been open about that my whole life. So, yeah, it's to be expected.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? I don't think we have anything else. We got off on like 7 different tangents. We've talked about film. We've talked about like 4 different seasons that have very little to do with the current season we're on. We referenced Kimmy Kappenberg being able to eat an insect for some reason. Yeah.
But not a, you know.
Yeah, not
a pig or a fish.
Was it a fish or I thought it was like a cow brain or something.
A chicken.
Chicken brain?
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that. I don't know.
Anyways,
regardless, it's been a while since I've
yes, I was on, like I just said, I was on a podcast. Mike White was robbed. Excellent podcast, really fun. The whole thing is you go on and you pitch a like kind of hot take for Survivor. Ben was on it earlier. Ben, what was your topic again? It was Cook Islands, right?
I don't think that I don't want to spoil Cook Islands for Dylan, but
yours was one of the contestants was robbed.
Yes. So my take was the 3rd place contestant from Cook Islands, the first 3rd place contestant in the final 3 that Survivor ever did, was not necessarily robbed, because that's kind of a boring way to put it in my opinion, but definitely that they got a raw draw with a number of the twists that happened to the point where they were in a position where they probably should have been a major player and potential winner, and they were basically an afterthought in the end game.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give that player some necessary due that they have not gotten historically.
I loved that episode. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
You did a very compelling case. Mine was, again, no spoilers for Dylan. Someone putting a rock in their pocket in a season of Survivor is the single most influential moment in the history of the franchise and shaped the future of Survivor in ways that I don't know if people fully appreciate. So I gave my pitch for that being the case, and I think I did a good job pitching it. I would love to hear what everyone thinks of that. Naomi Calhoun, she's the one who puts it together. She's a huge Mike White fan, which, you know, who isn't, right? That guy's great. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I'll have a link in the description for that. And please check it out and, you know, leave a nice review there and leave a nice review for us.
I don't know if Brian, you're cool with announcing it, but Brian and I do have some new big-ish news.
We'll tease the news because I gotta make sure that everything is in a row. But
we are still behind the scenes for legal stuff, but Brian and I have pending big news. So stick around.
I gotta get some more to sign off on it. That's the big thing.
Don't do like me and Brian have done for the last like 6 to 8 months and announce a project that we, you know, decide afterwards that we don't actually want to launch over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So.
Or perhaps this is a project we've already started.
Yeah. I've learned from my mistakes of announcing things too early to where no more announcing until things are actually out.
Tomorrow declines it. I tear We Could Get Everything down from the top to the bottom, and I start the show anyway.
Wow.
So stay tuned for that.
Shout out Brian Wong. Let's get Brian Wong.
Yes.
Even though Brian Wong, there's 0% chance he's listening to this right now.
Certainly not an hour and 18 minutes into a podcast about a show he doesn't watch.
No.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Shall we do our plugs, our social media plugs?
Of course. Yep.
All right. You can find me on Twitter at the fake BMAR. That's BMARR. And I upload fairly frequently, although not this week, to the Wicked Good Sports channel, which is ironic given that it's free agency and a million different things have happened, and also March Madness. But yeah, if you like sports content, check out that channel. And of course, the main channel is youtube.com/WeGetEverything.
Yep, you can find me on Twitter, DJ Clubberlang with 2 B's there in that Clubberlang. Just liking and retweeting Lydia tweets and yelling about stuff. That's my Twitter. Check it out. And follow everything. Follow everything.
Follow me on Twitter at Ben Sharon as well. At a certain point, I'll probably get back on Twitter and start using it more regularly. I keep saying that, but you know, I keep prioritizing my lack of wanting to be on Twitter over my wanting to be praised on social media by random people. So at some point, at the very least, I'll get back on it for B24 live feeds in the summer. Because normally I would do it for BBN live feeds, but I've been very on and off with that, so I haven't really had much to tweet about. Although Kyle Moore, big big mess is all I'll say. And you can also follow the main channel at WG Everything on Twitter, and then at Wicked Everything on Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. And then this channel is the podcast channel, Better Radio on YouTube. Otherwise, the show is called The Blindsiders, and you're obviously listening somewhere, but if you want to listen to it somewhere else, it's on every major podcasting platform. Other than that, we'll be back next week to cover episode 3 of Survivor 42. Until then.
Yes. See you then.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.